Alright guys, so welcome to your first set of pre-recorded notes. Now the whole reason why I do pre-recorded notes, I started this last year. I had my students take a poll. I do a lot of polls because I really want your input because you guys are the ones learning this information, I'm not. So I try to help you guys out as best as I can. So a lot of people were asking me to do this, a lot of students were, just because they didn't like doing notes as a class. Some thought that I was going too fast and some thought I was going too slow. So this is kind of that middle ground, that balance for those of you that do take a long time or just a longer time to process information and to write stuff down. You can now have the freedom to pause the video and take your time to really understand the information or to write it down. And then those of you that do understand it and you write quickly, you can just keep at my pace. But you probably will have to pause it, even those students, just because I'm going through the slides really quickly and I don't have any students to pace, so that is why everyone's probably going to have to pause the video. I do want to let you know that you will have an open note quiz after every set of notes. So if you think that you want to skip through the video, that's fine, go ahead, but you're not going to pass that quiz because some stuff that I'm saying will be on that quiz. So just kick back, relax, put the headphones in, and make sure that you're paying attention. Also, the screencast system that I use, I cannot edit, so this is just one cut, and so I may make mistakes. You may hear my dogs in the background. Just kind of want to let you guys know before we get started. Okay, so this is what your core noun notes should look like every single time. I am going to have a high standard for this year. Last year I used closed notes, and this year I'm not doing that. So I really want you guys to really do your best on the core noun notes. And since there's going to be open note quizzes after each set of notes, doing well writing them down is going to, give you a good grade on those open note quizzes. Now, on the top left, always needs to be the title, and it needs to be the TEK that we're on. So where Adams goes over 8.5a/8.5b. Remember that the left column is your questions and your main ideas. So on slides, they kind of have a question, and you can write that down because, they have the question as the title, then you're answering the question. So that's basically like a slide title that you're kind of writing down. The essential questions need to be written down. You will see that during your check-in. So at the end of this module, and this is module 2, you're going to be basically answering these questions. So you're getting the questions before the notes even begin, so you can answer those questions in your head, and then when you get your check-in, you can knock it out, and then hopefully it's right, and then you move on to another module. Notes need to be completed with colored pens or just a black pen or blue pen with highlighters. I do like this way of writing notes. It helps me understand things more. When I'm going over and I'm studying it, stuff pops out more. So I like to use colored pens. If I had highlighters, I would have used highlighters as well. I just didn't have highlighters with me when I was doing this set of notes. So whichever one works for you, you do have to choose one. You don't need to do a summary just because your check-in is going to be a summary. All right. So, essential question. What is the basic structure of atoms? How is an atom's mass calculated? Which subatomic particles are electrically charged? So you might need to pause it here because I'm going to move on to question 4 and 5. Make sure that you write these down. All right. 4, where are the 3 main subatomic particles located? 5, how do protons determine an atom's identity? All right, so what is an atom? Again, you could write this on that question and main idea column, so on that left side, and then you're going to write this information on the right. So it is the basic building blocks of ordinary matter, the basic unit of a chemical element, and consists of 3 basic parts: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Again, you might need to pause it. All right, so the center of an atom is the nucleus, which contains the protons and the neutrons. And then on the outside of the nucleus, you have the electron cloud, you have the orbitals, you have the shells. So they call it all 3 of those things, and that is where the electrons hang out. Again, you might need to pause. All right, so for the quick action, anytime you see scissors on the left side, that means that you are cutting out an interactive notebook template. Now, you're just going to cut it out. It's going to tell you to fill in information. So sometimes the slides will say you're going to fill in the information for the next 3 slides. Sometimes you'll do it at the end. So again, anytime you see the scissors, you're cutting stuff out. Make sure it's telling you to cut this line out as well. You're going to fold it into a pyramid after you write the notes down, which are going to be on the next 3 slides. I do want to say that these should be written in your Cornell notes as well. So you should have protons, neutrons, and electrons written on your template and in your notes. So you're doing it twice. Sorry. It'll help you remember. I'll try not to do that in the future, but for now, make sure that it's written in your Cornell notes and your template. Now, this is kind of showing you how it's folded. All right, so protons, they are in the center of the nucleus. They are positively charged, which is easy to remember because it starts with a P. So if you like to come up with stuff, mnemonics, stuff like that, P, they both start with the P, so they're both positive. Located in the nucleus, it's included in the atom's mass. 1 proton equals 1 AMU, which is the atomic mass unit. Something important to remember are these 2 on the bottom. Anytime I star something, you should star it too, just because it's going to be important. If you want to highlight it, you can highlight it as well. The atomic number equals the number of protons, and protons determine the element's identity. That's going to be important as well. All right, now we have neutrons. So I like to say that neutrons are neutral. That helps me remember, because I know for some of us, or for me when I was in school, I would think that neutrons are negative, but no, they are neutral. So there is no electrical charge. They are located inside the nucleus as well. It's included in the atom's mass. 1 neutron equals 1 AMU. And it may not always be the same number as protons. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So don't just assume that if an element has, or an atom has 20 protons, that there's going to be 20 neutrons. So keep that in mind. That is, it may not always be the same as the number of protons. All right, so electrons. Electrons are negatively charged subatomic particles. They are located outside the nucleus. It does not contribute to the atom's mass. One electron is 1/2000th AMU. And in a neutral atom, the number of protons and the number of electrons are equal. So we are only going to go over neutral atoms in high school chemistry, college chemistry. Your atoms aren't going to be neutral. But for now, protons is going to equal the same number as electrons. Now you have an interactive notebook slide. So you have your scissors. Make sure that you cut this out. What you are writing down is this information right here. Now, for your homework, for your test, you need to know this. I wouldn't say formula, but you just need to memorize this. Ape, man. And I would write it like that every single time. A equals P equals E, M minus A equals N. So, again, you're writing this information right there and this information right here. So the atomic number equals the number of protons equals the number of electrons. The mass number minus the atomic number equals the number of neutrons. So basically, atomic number, protons, electrons, mass number, you're going to find that out quick. The harder one, or the more difficult one to find is going to be neutrons. Okay, and I'll show you guys that on the next slide. So make sure you cut that out, write that down. Do not glue it in yet. You're going to do that at the end. You can pause the video right now because I'm going to click on the next slide. All right, so the periodic table. We are going to go over the periodic table again after, it's going to be the next set of notes is the periodic table. Just a refresher of 6th grade. This table shows all the different atoms there are on Earth. It's called the periodic table of elements. And remember, an atom is the basic unit of a chemical element. Fun fact, you might not really care, but I am from Livermore, California, and there is a lab there, and it's like a national laboratory, and so they created that element livermorium, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, fun fact. My dad also works at that lab, and my grandpa also worked at that lab. So, yeah. All right. Make sure for your core noun notes that you have this sample written down, or example written down. The atom's name, easy. So in the periodic table, it's going to say the element nitrogen. We know the N is the symbol. Okay, 7 is going to be the atomic number. That's it. That's what it is referred to. And sometimes you see the number in the middle. So it doesn't really matter if it's in the middle or the left. Make sure you just remember that. Now, I know that's the atomic number. I know that ape, A equals P equals E. So I immediately know how many protons there are because I know that the atomic number is 7. So there are 7 protons, which also means that there are 7 electrons. Now, I'm just going to write man, just in case. The atomic mass is always going to be given to you. It's going to be that bottom number, and it's usually decimal. And think of that, I don't know, for some reason I just understood that mass, the number on the bottom, that it's like its weight, like it's standing on a scale. So that kind of helped me remember that. So how can we determine the number of neutrons in nitrogen? So we have the mass. You don't need to put the decimal, but I'm going to say 14. My atomic number is 7. And that's going to equal the number of neutrons, 7. So for this example, the neutrons equal the number of protons, but doesn't always work out that way. This was just a good example that it does. Again, you might need to pause the video. Make sure you write this down. Make sure you label this whole thing, and then you can push play when you're ready. Alright, we got a quick action. So, quick action means you're going to find a partner. Now, a partner may not be your friend. It may be your friend if you guys are on the same page of notes and you guys work at the same speed. But it's not going to be your friend, or it doesn't have to be your friend. You're just going to find someone that works in the same pace as you. So, basically, look around, find someone that's on this slide, and I may have for this, you write your name on the board. You're going to grab a partner and practice. So you're solving for all these question marks. Now, before you even start, you should write down that little formula, A equals P equals E, M minus A equals N. Once you have that formula written down, you can substitute, we're using math words now, you can substitute those numbers into those letters. Okay, maybe easy for you. That's why you're working with a partner, in case you are struggling, or you guys can, in case you make a mistake. So, make sure that you are working with a partner for this and you're not doing it by yourself. When you are done, pay attention now. You are going to make up 4 problems of your own, asking for the element's name, number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. So, it's going to be the same thing as this table, except that you're going to be missing 2. So you're going to just draw this table out, and instead of missing 1, you're going to miss 2. Make sure that you use your reference star sheet to look at the periodic table to answer those questions. You will always have that star sheet available because you will have that available on the STAR test. Now, make sure, again, 4 problems, missing 2, not 1. You're going to do it, and then you're going to switch with your partner, and they're going to solve it. Now, you're going to do this on an index card. And then you're going to turn it in with both names on it. Have one person write the maker and then the solver. So the person that made it and then the person that solved it. Okay? So again, this quick action will be a grade. So it's a grade separate from the open note quiz, from the module 2. So for this quick action, it is a grade. So you can pause it here now because this is going to take you about 5 to 10 minutes. All right, so we are at the end of the notes. It was a quick set of notes today. It's a pretty smooth and pretty easy set of notes. Stuff that you kind of already learned about. So if you have any questions, ask me, because now's the time to ask since it is your first set of notes. So if you have any questions on what you should be doing, how you should be doing the notes, raise your hand. Get that clarification now. Don't get the clarification like halfway through the year. Okay? I'm a big believer in students communicating because it is your grade. You should be taking accountability for your work, okay? So if you don't understand something, if you don't understand what you're doing, ask me. Always ask a friend first or ask a partner first, but ask me, okay? Get that clarification if you need it. Now, your Cornell notes, at the end, it should look like this. It should be in different color ink, highlighted or both, okay, you are going to lose points if you don't have that. Or if it's happening a lot, I'm going to have you redo the notes completely because you aren't following the directions. I need to check your notes in your interactive notebook pages for completion before you complete your check-in. So, before you complete your check-in, so you cannot complete your check-in until I see that you are done, okay? So I may give you guys directions that I need to have an initial or stamp on your pages, okay? So, next slide, that's kind of showing you, I glued in the interactive notebook pages on the next page, and I also cut that triangle out. Oopsie, sorry. I also cut out that triangle because obviously you can't have a pyramid in your notebook. So I cut out that triangle to flatten it out, and then I glued that in. Now, can you, after going over the set of notes, describe the structure of an atom? Including the mass, electrical charges, and locations of protons, neutrons, and electrons. And can you identify an element by its number of protons? Okay? If you cannot do these two things, I would advise that you go back to the beginning of the notes and listen to the video again and while you're reading your notes, okay? All right, so this concludes your first set of notes. If you have any questions, ask, and good luck.